Best Podcast Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Stay tuned after the show for a 10-minute legal tip from Max Julian of the Gertzberg Law Firm, who will talk about non-competes and other restrictive covenants.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
Enjoy your life. Be nice to each other, for God's sake.
Hi, Molly Gebler.
Hi, Alex Gertzberg.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did.
Yeah?
It's been a busy week and a
Was
half.
it kitchen remodeling related?
No. The new Pinecrest is opening, so a lot of ribbon cuttings, grand openings, VIP parties, lots of
Why are you involved
things.
in all that? Because there's a lot of
Because it's
chamber
one of
members
our
there?
13 communities, Orange Village.
Oranges.
So a lot of those stores have joined the chamber.
And Pinecrest is like a big shopping center?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're having a concert there pretty soon.
We are.
I'm
The
excited about that.
Spasmatics.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
Somebody at last week's concert came up and said, hey, I've been seeing all this Facebook chatter about this Pinecrest thing. And I said, I don't know what Pinecrest is. And she goes, really? Because you're sponsoring it. I said, yeah, no, I've never even heard of Pinecrest. And she goes, yeah, look right here. And she pulls out her phone. And sure enough, that's what it is, because we're sponsoring the concert series, which is in Pinecrest. And she said a bunch of us are going. So apparently,
it's typically in Orange Village. We usually have it at that amphitheater in Orange. Remember, behind the village
I didn't
hall.
make it to that one last year.
And we've had it there for the past couple years, and God bless the mayor of Orange. She just tries her little hardest to, get people to come, and it's just spotty there. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to really get the mayor to be able to brag about Orange, and tons of people are going to come.
Is it a big area for the concert to be held in?
It's a big lawn.
Love it.
It's very exciting, right in front of the new cinema that's there.
Last Friday's concert was crazy.
There had to be 500 people there.
Easily.
Yeah, and it was everywhere. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
It was just a good night, beautiful weather.
Yeah.
If you are not coming out to these concerts, then we had a great one at Newberry. That was just, they probably had about 200 people, and it was just, again, a beautiful night in general.
Can we get, so that was the Diamond Project.
Yes.
That was the Neil Diamond cover band. And I want the dude who plays Neil Diamond in that concert to be in that chair.
Yes.
And then also record a Best Podcast Ever jingle.
Yes, I love
Neil Diamond.
it.
That'd be sick.
I love it. Yes,
All
let's
right, call
do
that
that.
dude up.
I will talk to his guy, Tim.
But that was a really good time, and I agree. People listening at home need to go to cvcc.org and check out the schedule and go. It's at multiple locations,
and
multiple
it's
times a
family
week.
Friendly, and we open the floor up for all kinds of hula hooping and dancing with all ages.
Yeah.
And remember that one concert we had, that lady dancing with the dog?
Yeah.
Were you there? She had like a huge Great Dane, and then she went like this, and they were dancing, and it was.
No, my favorite dancers are the two elderly twin ladies who dance for the polka band.
Yes, they'll be back. Band. They will.
Yeah, they're hilarious. They always dress the same.
I want you out there with them. That's my goal.
I'll dance with them this time.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay.
Done deal.
So you have a bracelet on that we were talking about. Tell me more about that.
So this bracelet. So you know what my problem is, Molly?
What?
Memory.
Memory,
right? And it's taken me 43.
Memories.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's taken me 43 years to realize that I cannot re-engineer my brain to have a better memory. I can only optimize hacks, right? Like reminders, Post-it notes. And so I have this computer you see in front of you is a Microsoft Surface. Do you have a Surface?
I do not.
It's the best computer, best laptop there is. And this thing is my second brain, and I use Evernote to remember stuff, and I have different alarms on my phone. But the one thing that I could always use a reminder of is to be mindful. So
what does that mean to you, being mindful?
Paying attention.
Okay.
Paying attention to
being in the moment.
Yeah. Paying attention to what's happening here and now instead of maybe regretting things that have happened in the past or worrying about things that are going to happen in the future. And I've talked about meditation before and how life-changing it's been for me, but you don't really need to meditate in order to drop into this sense of mindfulness and sense of meditation. And by that, I mean, right? And I think you would really benefit from this, Molly, because you know how your brain just on its own will go someplace other than right here and right now involuntarily, right? Probably while I'm talking right now, your brain has gone there
it's gone
18
a couple
times.
Places, yeah.
So on this bracelet, which I think I might be the only man to order anything off of Etsy.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Be proud.
Yeah, but it says
Etsy proud.
It says mindful on it. It reminds me whenever I look at it that if my mind isn't on this conversation or this thing that I'm working on or my kids playing in front of me or whatever, right? That I can instantly, when I look at it, snap into the present, right? And I've definitely found that it is helping me retrain my brain that way a little bit, you know, so that I'm not looking down here as often,
right?
You know.
Well, good for you.
Anywho,
good for you.
That's what that's all about. You should get a mindful bracelet.
You know what? I feel like I know that my mind travels, but I don't. And feel free, callers, to call in. I don't feel that anyone who is with me would say that I'm not with them.
Whoa, the phone is ringing off the hook right now.
I mean,
it just
not
blew
making
up.
them feel like they're not important,
No,
or
right.
so I think I think I do make sure that whomever I'm in front of.
Yeah. Well, folks such as you and I who are riven
we just
with
have
ADD.
Different brains.
Well, no, but that is definitely true.
Yeah.
So Jacob and I were just talking about this yesterday. He asked me, what did he ask? He said, "What's flow?" He heard someone talk about flow, and I had read this book by someone who studies flow. You know what flow is, right?
I do not.
Okay. So a lot of professional athletes, I'm going to dovetail right back into this ADD discussion and presence, right, in a second. But a lot of professional athletes report that they experience when they are just killing it on the basketball court or in a soccer match or whatever, on the football field. They experience this sense of time stopping and of almost like a blackout where they're no longer thinking about what they're doing.
They're just doing it.
They're just doing it. Their body's on autopilot, right? And there is a lot of science behind the idea that you can actually train yourself and train your brain to experience that. So that is flow. It's that.
That's that moment.
Yeah. When you're on autopilot, your brain is totally blank. You're not thinking about the future, the past, or anything other than that moment, and you're not even really thinking about that moment. Your brain is just kind of blank, right? And so that's what I was explaining to Jacob. And people who have ADD, who are really passionate about something, and who have a project that they're working on, or who are talking to somebody that they love, or somebody that they're having a really intense conversation with, their brains have they show these same signs of flow
It's funny you said that because in my head I was saying, I experience that a lot.
Yeah. Well, so in the ADD world, they call it hyperfocus, right? So like, do you ever notice like when you're working at the chamber on something, right? Even though when you're bored, your mind is all over the place and you don't feel like, you're in the here and now at all. But when you're working on some project at the chamber, like time stops and suddenly the day is just gone and you're like, where did it go? And right.
Yeah.
So, that is definitely an asset, I think, for people. I think it's whether you have ADD or not, but what I've read is people who have ADD, they tell them to surround yourself with activities like that because you will more easily jump around when you're not having those kinds of interesting, fulfilling, meaningful spaces of time to fill. You know what I mean?
I had a good space of time today. I was asked to be a speaker at an event, a women's event today. It's called WIN, Women in Networking.
What are you going to talk about?
I already talked.
That was today?
Yeah. I talked about business and community and how you can partner those and make a great team. You're very good at that. The Gertzberg Law Firm is very good at that with connecting with community, getting your name out there. But, but you always have to do it for the right reasons. You're doing it for business. You got to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I was telling the ladies today that, give your community credit because they'll sniff those people out.
Right.
Like you can tell the person who is in it for themselves and they'll get sniffed out and they'll get dismissed. If you're truly in it and doing it for the right reasons, it'll be beneficial for you.
Customers especially have good bullshit detectors.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and if you're genuine about why you're doing something.
And I also talked about, even though you're the owner or the manager of whatever it is that you are of, you might not necessarily always be the right person to go out into the community. There are book people. There are, you want to send your best foot out in the community. Right. You want, we see it in the chamber or we see it in events all the time. You get that one person who comes in, all they care about is the food. They stand in front of the food. They're shoveling it in front of their mouths. They're in the corner. They're not talking to anybody, not networking with anybody. Well, that's actually going to be the opposite of being good for your business. Don't send that person. Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay if that's not his person. Absolutely. Right. So find that person who's going to give it the best for your business.
Yeah. And I think what's becoming even more prevalent now is companies testing employees for what those talents are, for who is really good at that kind of stuff. Send those guys, maximize their natural talents or build on them, but don't send... I mean, there are folks here.
If you don't want to sit and listen to them, no one else does either.
Exactly right.
So you could be your own. Yeah.
You know what, Molly? By the way, I have to tell you, I've been I don't know if I complimented you on your public speaking abilities.
Like, I'll always take a compliment.
Well, it struck me twice recently. Once was at the Business Awards dinner. Or not, it wasn't a dinner. It was the
evening.
Yeah. I think of it as the chamber person of the award, chamber person of the year award night.
Yes. Or AKA Alex Kurtz's
Well,
night.
That's for me, that was a very special night. But it was then, and then there was also when you were talking to the group of people about sponsorship opportunities. And I just thought each time you were like really funny.
Oh, thank you.
And you were just hamming it up with people.
That's what they said about me today.
At awards night, there was 1,000 people in that crowd.
Because I don't want to sit and listen to someone boring.
Right.
So why do I want to get up there and bore you? I want you to be.
Have you always been that way, like hamming it up all the time on stages? Or I
don't know. Not on stages, no.
Or just in front of groups of people?
I don't know.
You seem like you've got a natural talent.
I'm never nervous. It never affects me at all. Like I never get nervous. Like today there was 40 women. And it just didn't even, I wrote the speech last night. Don't tell them. I didn't
They're
tell
probably
them,
not listening.
Listen, I didn't tell them anything they didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that it was just reiterating it. But yeah,
Lovely.
I enjoy doing it. So
No, you're
anytime you
good
want
at
me
it.
to speak for you, just let me know.
You're good at it.
So speaking of being good at something,
Yes. What a great but
guest is-
slightly tortured segue that
Yes,
was, Molly. Nice crowbar.
he's good at protecting us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have Jim Alunni.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Jim
so glad that
Alunni
you
is
said his last
the-
name first because I
yes.
forgot to ask you how to pronounce
He
it
is
properly.
the fire marshal
Yes.
for Chagrin Falls, for the Chagrin Falls volunteer. We're going to want to dive into that because, Chagrin Falls services so much more than just the Chagrin Falls area. And I hate to call them the Chagrin Falls Fire Department because their security blankets the whole Chagrin Valley.
Right.
So I do want to make sure we ask about that.
Yeah, I think that there's multiple organizations for whom he provides fire prevention related services.
But don't you find that in the especially in the fire department, also in the police department as well, they're a little bit here and then they're part-time over in
Yeah.
Bedford and they're part-time in Chagrin and they're not all but Jim does live in the area.
You guys are like besties. It seems like you guys.
I mean, don't tell him, but of course we're besties.
Right.
He might not know it. No, I've known Jim for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He inspects the township hall every year, make
Yeah.
sure we're safe. And just, throughout my job, I have come to respect him and all he does. So he's just a great all-around guy. You'll learn in this segment that he is going to share with you his beliefs and his passions.
Yeah.
And he's not going to hold back. He's going to be a great
Good.
listen for sure.
Good.
And that's why I knew he'd be a great guest.
He's an Army, or no, a
boy.
Navy corpsman.
Oh boy, we've messed it up
Yeah.
already.
Navy,
And he
sorry,
has an
Jim.
Incredible
Injured.
story of why he joined and some things that happened to him while he was defending our country. So I don't want to give anything away because with a story like that, I think it needs to be told by
Agreed.
the person. But
Yeah.
he is amazing, and we're going to learn all about him. Well, welcome, Jim. Alunni, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
What do
I
you
mean,
mean?
I always said it that way, but maybe I was wrong.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah.
you want to know if I changed my name. I changed my name on Facebook briefly, and everybody went crazy about it.
Would you
You know
change
what?
it? Would you
Let's-
change it too?
My wife's name, Finley. I thought that'd be a better name.
Let's
Terrible
dive
growing up
right
with my
into
name.
Facebook because you are backing off on it.
Yes.
Taking a Facebook vacation.
But that was not. I mean, you were active on it.
Yeah, I was.
You shared your views.
Yeah,
You're
I
not
did.
shy.
No, I'm not.
And
Yeah,
is that
I got in a little bit of trouble
For what?
with social media. Well, a few years ago, I was pretty rough on Facebook. I thought things were funny, and I thought that's what you're supposed to do on Facebook is write what you thought was funny.
Isn't it? I thought
Yeah,
that's what it
I
was
don't have any
for.
kids to take pictures of or anything like that. There's a
Right.
couple dog pictures, but mostly it was just every day what I would see, and I would just comment on it. Well, I started getting friends. I mean, I joined Facebook when I was in the military in like 2003, and that was it.
To stay connected.
Yeah, and I remember being in Iraq, and I was like, "What the hell's my niece doing on here?" And then the next thing you know, my mother's on there, and everybody else, and everybody wants to be your friend, especially in Chagrin Falls. And I would say some things that were a little off color. Yeah. And I remember seeing Tom Mattern once, and I had written something about somebody tailgating me in a school zone, and how I just wanted to like put it in park and watch her and her kids like hit the, and he saw me, he goes, I saw what you wrote on Facebook because I had to go to the high school for a meeting. I'm like, oh my God, Tom, I forgot we were friends. So he's like, I thought it was hilarious. We were laughing. And I'm like, okay, good. So
why back off?
Nobody needs
Not
to
worth the
know that
drama?
much. Nah, yeah, the chief several years ago, he called me into his office. He goes, we have a social media policy, right? And I said, yeah, I wrote it, remember? And he goes, yeah, I have to give you a written warning because somebody complained. I'm like, are you kidding me?
boy.
And it was a post about like gun control,
Okay.
which I'm for. which most people think I'm not because I was in the military and my current job. They think, you just want everyone to have a bazooka. But, I was just trying to illustrate a point. And somebody called the police department and said, I think the fire marshal said he's going to kill someone.
What?
Oh, my gosh.
Which is completely wrong.
Not what you said.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
What the hell?
I'm only back on Facebook right now because of fundraising for
Yes.
Velosano. That is it. I quit Twitter. I quit Instagram, which I didn't understand anyway. Then my buddy's daughter, who's like 22, put a picture of herself in lingerie. I'm like, I got to get off this. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be seeing these things. This is for a younger generation, And then everybody at work anyway, people. Oh, did you see what Ryan posted? I'm like, are you kidding? I unfollowed you all years ago. I just see what's on like NPR and Ricky Gervais.
I guess we could. We do have to stop and just take a step back. That we do live in a community where like this is our biggest problem.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Misspelling words on a banner and laughing about it. So I want to put that into context.
That's good. That's the right perspective to think about.
So
it.
So let's get off of Facebook since it sucks, and let's talk.
Okay.
Let's talk about bigger problems. Let's talk about
let's really talk about Jim.
fire and Iraq. Where should we start, Molly?
No, I don't even know.
Let's go
Jim,
Iraq.
you are the
Yeah.
fire marshal.
All right, let's go fire.
Extraordinaire.
Of Chagrin Falls. Yeah.
Is a fire marshal and a fire chief two different people?
Yes, though
That's what I
nobody in Chagrin thinks so. Most of the people who are outside of the fire department, and this is a running joke with my boss, Frank Zugan, our chief, everybody thinks I'm the chief. Everybody.
It's probably a good thing someday.
Well, it's because I'm out in the public eye, and he understands it. I mean, he's a part-time chief, and he's a full-time battalion chief for Shaker Heights. And, same thing there. They're fire prevention people. Everybody thinks they're the chief because they're the people who are out every day driving around. Everybody else is at the station waiting for a call. The chief is usually in meetings at Village Hall or, doing his chiefly duties. I'm the only one who's out in the public.
You live here in Chagrin Falls.
Yeah, I live right on top of
How does
Summit
that,
Street.
and the Cobles fire comes to my head.
Mm-hmm.
How is it when you are like heading to a house of maybe somebody that you were just hanging out with the other day and then you see, especially their house, which was devastated.
Right. Well, it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. I tell everybody that, working for a small town and living in a small town, it's the best and the worst thing.
Right.
It's the best thing because you know everybody. It's the worst thing because bad things happen to people once in a while, and you're probably going to know them.
Right. I've shared this with you, and I think I've shared this on the podcast, that if anything fire related or anything with me happens, John is to take me and make sure my legs are shaved. My pits and my legs, make sure they're at their top of the game, because I don't want Jim Facebooking pictures.
I'm not, because I'm quitting Facebook soon. I'm quitting soon. I'm almost to my goal, and I will be off Facebook until
that's got to be.
You should have that. I don't know if you've had the Gertzberg Law Firm update your estate plan, Molly, but we can definitely write that in to your will.
Well, my sister's a probate attorney, so she does take care of that for me and hides all the toys that we don't want Jim to find either.
Right.
So
gotcha.
Can we talk more about you got the chief, and so the chief is your boss.
The chief is my boss.
So you're like the like
I'm the hovercraft. That's what I.
You get the stuff done, right? You're out there doing the stuff, and he's like running interference with the
it's all political
voters.
I mean, his job is just answering every other question. I do fire, but my whole job is to make sure he doesn't ever have to hear about fire prevention. And he said that years ago when we had a problem at one business, and he came with me and he said, this is the guy you're supposed to be talking to. The fact that I'm here means there's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever want to see me.
When there's a fire, do you guys both go?
If available.
Yeah.
I mean, the chief, it's still at its heart a volunteer department, and most of us live around here and in this community and in adjoining communities. So anytime there's a call, even if it's a squad call, you stubbed your toe, it gets paged out. You're at home and you're like, well, I'm going to go down to the station. So if there's a fire, there's only 4 people on duty 24 hours a day. During Monday through Friday, myself and the chief bring it up to 6. So 4 people gets cut really small.
Sure.
If there's a fire. So they're depending on us to come from home.
And so you've been the fire marshal since '95. Is that true?
No.
No.
I joined. I
fired.
Our crack research team
Yeah.
is
Right.
Come on, man.
No, I became an inspector in '99, and then I was made full-time fire marshal after I got back from the military. But I've always, I'm always a firefighter first.
Yeah.
So I was a volunteer to start, and then a part-time firefighter, and then I got into fire prevention.
So so how long were you a firefighter?
Well, I'm still a firefighter now.
I know, but before you were
I showed up
marshal.
in 1994, like November of 1994, as a volunteer.
Here in Chagrin Falls.
Here in Chagrin
Okay,
Falls.
got
and
it.
then I think it was 99 when I got my inspector's card. I think it was 99. Yeah.
Okay. And
I was a part-time inspector, but I was still a firefighter first. I still I work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. But this Thursday night, I will take off the blue shirt with the gold badge that you see all the time, and I will put on a blue t-shirt with a white thing that says Chagrin Fire, and I will just be a firefighter from 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Jim, what's the low-hanging fruit of fire prevention? What's the, other than have a smoke alarm, right? Like, what's the thing that causes fires the most that's most easily preventable?
Statistically, across the country, smoking is the number one cause of fatal fires, but that's across the country.
Has that
Not
changed
many people
with the
here.
new cigarettes going out automatically?
We don't really have many of those type of fires. I mean, it is advantageous to live in a rather educated community, I guess I would say. I mean, most people around here, they have good fire alarms. They've got alarm systems. They've got their head on straight, Yeah. Usually a fire is completely accidental. It's not your fault. It's some kind of electrical thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the number one, cause of fires that aren't fatalities are kitchen fires. So, people just leaving things unattended for a second. And I cook a lot at home, and the pan will catch on fire briefly, but it's supposed to, and I know what to do. Now other people freak out and throw that pan somewhere, and suddenly there's burning oil everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's going to catch something else on fire. Now I know what I just lit on fire is going to cook off in 2 seconds, and it's safer on the stove under the hood.
Are you supposed to cover it with anything? Because that's what I do.
Yeah. The easiest thing to do is just turn off the burner.
Right.
Yeah, and if you do have the lid to the pan, just slide it over the top of it.
Okay, perfect.
And that's it. Fire's over.
And I'm sure that
Yeah,
that's the
and
last.
still call us. But yeah, I mean,
the last thing people think is to turn off the burner.
Yeah,
They're
right.
freaking out.
Right.
well, I always think, going back to the Cobles, her fire, I had to do the investigation on that fire. And the first interview, she was going over what had happened. And as she told me, she goes, "Oh my God, that was wrong." I'm like, "Well, you wouldn't know. You're probably freaking out."
Right.
I would
sure.
know. And nobody else aside from firefighters would know that,
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
And theirs was a
dryer.
dryer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we asked her, and she said, my son saw this, and he smelled some smoke, and there was, I looked, and there were sparks in the dryer, so I opened the door. And I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, right.
And she goes, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
But
but
you
how would
didn't
you
know.
know?
Sure.
You're not going to know.
Sure.
You're not spending your whole life preparing for a fire.
Right.
Only, that's why we try to educate people, and we get them when they're young. And no little kid wants to keep their door closed, but no, keep your door closed because that'll protect you. If there's smoke outside, that door's going to, not much is going to get in there, and then you stuff something under the door.
How true was backdraft?
Well, it's totally not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's where I learned a little bit more about
Right.
what you're saying with the doors and opening
I
up.
thought that
That's where
movie
I
was
kinda-
awesome when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It solidified, I'm going to be a firefighter. But,
not
after you
so
become
much.
a firefighter, boy, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Good special effects.
Yeah, well, I do keep the door,
Yeah.
but that's how I learned not to
But
open
yeah,
the
I mean, but
door.
there's
Yeah.
first of all, you can't see in a fire. Everything's completely dark. You can't breathe in a fire. You have to wear an air tank. So Kurt Russell with the jacket open, walking through fire with a baby that's alive and just comes out the front
Right,
door.
right.
I think that's the cover of the movie. That doesn't happen. It's completely dark, and you've got to try to get, and you have an air mask, and you could barely hear
Right.
anything.
Jim, how often do you see arson happening in these parts?
Not often. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is, thanks to social media, everybody automatically thinks if a business burns, it's arson.
Yeah.
And there have been times when I remember when a couple things burned down, I said, oh my God, they're burning down their building. It was the first thing in my head. But we go there and, do an investigation, and we all help each other out. I call in other fire marshals from bigger cities that I'm friends with who deal with arson a lot. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to need a little help here. I just want to make sure I got everything. And they're like, nope, this was just bad luck.
So you talk a little bit about social media.
Yes.
But yet the fire department does kind of put
that's me.
Some things out.
Yeah.
So you guys it was Mother's Day. And there was you guys saved the dog in Whitesburg.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was all over. Like, you guys posted that save.
Oh, well, yeah. I'll tell you what. We save people every day. And it's funny. When I meet little kids, they're like, when was the last time you saved a life? I'm like, what time is it?
Right.
I mean, it sounds dramatic, but, if we don't get certain people to a hospital, things aren't going to go well.
Right.
But if we save an animal, forget it. We saved that deer in the ice. It was the biggest social media post I ever put on Facebook. It was shared everywhere. Everyone is all happy about this tick-laden deer that's probably going to get hit by a car at 87 because we hugged it, we pulled it out of the ice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So but you saved this man. I memean, he was.
Yeah. Well, I know
you saved.
He was a little worried.
All the time,
yeah.
But
the water was, it's at that time of the year, it's still cold and it's moving quickly. And people get overwhelmed by that pretty easily. Hypothermia will set in, and that
we
water
had
will drag you down.
A chamber member who talked about his story at our breakfast the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Ramsey, who fell off the cliff.
Yeah,
and you guys were there, and it was super cool because you had mentioned how you guys are volunteers and you come when you... Even if you're off, the one guy who was there, who was also with Dave saving his life, basically, and his wife's, said that exact thing that, I wasn't on, but it's just what we do.
Right. That was
we
Captain
just come because it's
Brian
what we
Foster.
do. Yes, yes.
And he's a really big tech rescue guy, so he gets to the station and he automatically goes there. Yeah, most of the calls we go on, especially especially the big calls, we all come from home.
And that's why we appreciate you. So you joined the Navy because of the 9/11 attacks, yes?
Yes.
What was it? I mean, that's probably a very stupid question, but was it something specific that you said, oh, I'm going?
Well, I always admired the service since I was a kid, and my father was in the Army. He had a pretty cake job. He was in before Vietnam. He just enlisted for the heck of it because it was something to do then, when he was young. And he was like the assistant director of a jazz band in Germany and a photographer. It was like he was on vacation for 3 years.
Was that was Vietnam, you said?
Before Vietnam.
Okay.
When he was discharged, Vietnam was starting. Okay. And he was on a ship coming back to America, and somehow my grandmother got a letter to him that this other conflict is starting, and they're trying to get people to re-enlist, but you're done. Please come home. And
wow.
He was done anyway. He wanted to come home. So I always appreciated the military as a kid. I loved wearing my dad's Army uniforms, and my dad was, I guess, tiny because I only wore them up until the 8th grade, and then they were too small. But you play in the woods and you have a good time. And you watch all the movies and stuff like that. So when I went to college, I wanted to be a firefighter since I was 5, but my parents insisted you have to go to college or you're going to starve and die. So I'm like, look, I just want to be a firefighter. You have to send me to the fire academy. That's where I need to go. So college was sort of just a delay. So I got there and I was sort of floundering the first 2 years. I didn't know what to do. I started as a music major because I played a couple instruments. But then I went to Cleveland State and they had an Army ROTC program. And it's sort of combined with John Carroll's, I believe. So I went through the initial stages with that. Then I became a theater major, which I actually kind of seriously got into. And the only reason I became a theater major was I took one theater class, and they just should have called it like strict labor. It was myself and a girl, Tuesday and Thursday for 4 hours, just building sets. Yeah, and this guy would come in and say, here are the plans for the day, build these. Well, this girl looked like Salma Hayek. She was gorgeous. She was this Puerto Rican girl from the west side of Cleveland. And she goes, I'm thinking of being a theater major. I'm like, yeah, me too.
I'm
thinking
doing
of doing whatever you're
doing.
going to do. So I became a theater major, and actually I enjoyed it a lot. And, I got a job with Cleveland Opera, and I worked for them full time, building sets and, repairing sets that they would trade with other operas. But in the meantime, I was still trying to become a firefighter. So left ROTC because what are they going to do with a theater major? Probably not much. Got hired out here at Chagrin as a volunteer to begin with. So completely left college and worked my way up to being a part-time fireman and eventually full-time. But yeah, 9/11 happened and I was on duty that day. And usually if some big incident happens, our secretary, who's the assistant chief's wife, Leslie Leffler, she gets on the PA and says, hey, well, a plane flew into a tower in New York. So we're like, okay, we were downstairs doing our chores, checking the trucks. We're like, oh, let's go up there. So we go up there and we're watching and we're making breakfast, and FDNY, that's like the Harvard of fire departments. We're like, everybody wants to be a New York City firefighter. So we're watching and we're like, oh my God, could you imagine climbing all those stairs right now and all the people coming out and all this other kind of stuff. And then I remember myself and this guy, Bill Partain, who's, he left the fire. He's a nurse anesthetist now for like Life Flight. But a real smart guy, but he was a firefighter with us for a long time. He lives in South Russell. He and I watched the second plane hit live, and we just kind of looked at each other. Our eyes got big. We're like, this is not an accident, And I remember immediately there, I was like, I'm going to do something. I got to enlist. I got to do something. Or let's get in a fire truck and go to New York, which so many people did.
Yes.
And my mother actually called the fire station because she knew I was at the fire station. She goes, are you seeing what's happening? I said, yes. She's like, don't you dare go to New York. I'm like, well, we'll go if they call us.
I'll do you one better. I'll join the Navy.
Yeah. Well, it took a couple years till I finally joined the Navy. I kind of, was trying to figure out exactly what to do and how I could best be used. And I really wanted to be a Marine.
But you were told that you were too old.
Yeah, I was too old. So I called 1-800-Marines and I told the woman I want to enlist and blah, 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 all this other kind of stuff. She's like, okay, great. What's your name? How old are you? And at the time, I think I was
30.
30, yeah. Wow, you do a lot of research. Where'd you get all this stuff?
Nellie, our research girl.
All right, so yeah. So
we know everything.
Yeah, I think because I turned 31 in boot camp, which was bad to have a birthday in boot camp. They find out. So, but yeah, I called 1-800-Marines. She laughed at me when I told her how old I was. I'm like, well, you don't understand. Got all this medical training. You could use me. And she goes, well, why don't you join the Navy and be a corpsman? I didn't know what the hell a corpsman was. I'm like, forget this. I'll go join the Army. So I literally almost joined the Army. I talked to a recruiter, and he was trying to scam me into being a active duty firefighter. We'll make you an E7 right now, which is a pretty high rank for a guy just walking in. And then I was like, what is this written? Oh, well, that's active duty. So recruiters tell you whatever you want. You want to be a general? Yeah, sure. Here, we'll name a ship after you. That's a recruiter's job. But luckily, my best friend, Todd Dietzel, he's a lieutenant for Moreland Hills Police. His cousin was a Navy recruiter. And he called me up, and we had met each other before. And he's active duty Navy, still is. And he's down in Florida. He's like a senior chief or a master chief now. And he's like, okay, this is what a Navy corpsman does, blah, blah, blah. And you could get to the Marines that way. I'm like, all right, put it in my contract that I got to go to the Marine Corps. He's like, you want it in your contract? No problem. Because most people who join the Navy don't want anything to do with the Marine Corps, So yeah, that's how I kind of backdoored my way into the Marine Corps. And my mother wasn't very happy about it. I remember she sort of found out in a roundabout way. I don't know who told her, but she called me up and she said, over my dead body, are you joining the military? I'm like, well, I guess you better eat a bullet because I already signed up and I'm leaving July of 2003. Yeah, July 7th, 2003. Wow. I went to boot camp.
So how long after that do you end up in Iraq?
So 2003, July of 2003, I'm in Navy boot camp. Graduate that, immediately go to Navy Corps School, which is across the street, which is their medical program. It's like a cross between EMT and LPN. It's pretty basic. And then after that, they call that your A school. I'm sure you know all this, but it's like the first school you go to, and then you become more specialized. So then I had to go to Camp Pendleton in California and Camp Lejeune, and that's where I went to Field Medical Service School, and that is what teaches you how to integrate with the Marines. Suddenly your Navy uniform is gone. You wear a Marine Corps uniform. It just says U.S. Navy on the name tape. So that's what, you learn to operate with the Marines. And it's a lot of tactics and fire teams and all that other kind of stuff, and more trauma-related stuff. Then after that, I went to a really advanced medical course that was awesome, with all this crazy stuff that I know how to do still, but there's no way I could ever do it in this country. You could only do it in a war zone. You know,
Yeah.
I could put in chest tubes. I could do internal jugular IV cut downs and all this crazy
You
stuff
make
I
a
learned.
trach out of a pen.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, that's in every movie. Yeah, you do that, and then you shoot the other sniper through the scope.
Right.
Those are all the standard things. That's the dream corpsman thing, is to do that corpsman, and then every sniper wants to kill the other sniper through the scope. That's all movie stuff that doesn't happen. So I didn't end up in Iraq until we left right after New Year's of 2005. So then I
And
think
you're how old at that point?
March 2005, 34 maybe.
And then you end up
33, 34.
You end up in Anbar, I know, at some point.
Yes, we were Al Anbar province was our whole
Yeah.
AO. That's where we spent all our time.
Okay.
Mostly between. They split our battalion in two. So first I ended up in Heat, Iraq. You know, HIT.
Yeah.
And then our platoon sergeant was very aggressive and kind of let the base commander know that he wasn't doing the right thing by not putting us on the other side of the river, because that's where we were getting mortared from. We're like, look, we need to get to the other side of the river to kill the people who are bombing us every day. And the guy wouldn't listen, and they got into an argument. So that CO basically said, take the rest of your snipers, go up to Haditha with the rest of the other half of your platoon. So we're like, okay. So we drove up to Haditha, which was, I don't know, a couple hours away. Were you ever in Haditha?
Yeah, we drove. Well, I remember the highway signs to Haditha.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever actually went into Haditha.
We were in a dam, Haditha Dam.
Okay.
Now, it's unbearably hot, of course, in Iraq during the time we get there. But as soon as you get towards this dam, there's a huge body of water, so it's cooler. We're like, oh my God, it just got cool. It looks like a beach. And then there's the other half of the guys we hadn't seen in 2 months, and it was just like a party. They're like, hey, we pull out, and so
I'm
we
not quite
spent
sure
the
I've
rest
ever
of
heard it described as a party.
our platoon had a pretty good time till the last day.
So you said that it was a party until you left. However, I don't think all that's true, because about a month before you were deployed, before you're coming back,
Yeah.
is probably a day that you'll remember forever.
Right. That's my alive day.
Yeah.
August 1st, 2005. That's why I always tell everybody I had a great time till the last day. The
I
last
see.
day was my
That
last
was the
day with my battalion was August 1st, 2005.
So can you talk about that?
Sure.
Take us there.
So it was towards the end of our deployment. I think there was probably just a little over a month left. And a few weeks before that, we were taking a lot of casualties. So I think it's 48 sailors, Marines were killed in action.
From your unit.
From our unit, which is a lot. And over 200 injured. So we were getting all these combat replacements coming in because we were really aggressive. It was a really aggressive unit, which I joined that unit because of that. I shopped around. I mean, when I figured out what I wanted to be, I was going to these different units. They're like, oh yeah, we haven't been deployed since World War II. I'm like, well, then I don't want to be with you. I want to go. That's the whole reason I'm enlisting. I want to do something.
Right.
So, being aggressive, you take a lot of casualties. So, with a couple months left, like 2 months or a month and a half left, they came to myself and the other corpsmen who were assigned to stay platoon, the sniper platoon, and said, look, we need to pull you guys out. Nothing ever happens with the snipers. They're always hidden. You guys could be used better elsewhere. So immediately, our platoons hit us. They hit us anywhere they could. They're like, we're going on a mission now. And we'd go, and we went back to Heat, and we just stayed there. And I remember my team hated Heat, hated it. It was run down. It was super hot, mortared every day. You couldn't go to the bathroom without putting on your flak jacket, and your Kevlar helmet. It was just, it was a bad place to be. And I was like, look, guys, let's just go back. I know you hate it here. And this one monotone guy who's an officer now, he's great. He was like, I like you more than I hate Heat. And I was like, I'm like, thanks, I appreciate it. But so we went and we requested mast, which was like, just going all the way up the chain of the command, don't take us out of, these are the guys we know, these are the guys we're with, this is what we're trained for. So we had a little bit of our platoon had looser grooming standards. So I remember by the time we got called to the lieutenant colonel's office, myself and the other corpsman were putting all this like like hand lotion on our hair, tried to slick it back and make it look like we had short hair, because I had long hair in the military. I had like 4 inches blowing in the breeze on top. So, and I found out why a lieutenant colonel's a lieutenant colonel. He explains exactly why you're being reassigned and how it's going to help everybody. And you're just a complete jerk if you don't agree with them. You're like, oh God, the way he words it, you're wrong if you don't agree. So they gave us choices. They said, look, you could go to the battalion aid station, ride out your last month and a half in a battalion aid station, which is basically like a sick bay on the base at Haditha. It's pretty safe. Or you could go with a mobile assault platoon. And I was like, yeah, I'll go with the mobile assault platoon. I still, I want to go out. This is why I'm here. And I want to be stuck in a clinic on the base. That sounds boring to me. So we went back to our barracks and we sat there. And your barracks, you operate at night. So during the day, everybody sleeps, but you've got, your blankets and stuff like around. So to kind of give you some privacy in your bunks and stuff like that. So I went, I laid down, and I knew, I would have to like move out to this mobile assault platoon in the next couple of days. And then the other corpsman came in, and my buddy, Ben Shardy, he's a cop over in Brook Park now. He was one of the snipers. He said, what happened? He goes, yeah, we went to mass to the colonel, forget it, we're out. And he's like, oh, where are you going? He's like, they gave us a choice between battalion aid station or mobile assault platoon. He's like, I took battalion aid station. He's like, good job. You don't want to be in those death boxes, those Humvees. And I was like, thanks a lot, Shardy. Oh, because he from behind the blanket, and he just laughed, and it was hilarious. So yeah, I ended up in this mobile assault platoon with a bunch of guys who hadn't really seen a ton of combat. They were like at Al Assad Air Base, like providing security. They were part of our battalion, but it was this tiny little company that was sent over there. So the guy who was our platoon sergeant, James Graham, he was a great guy, a little bit younger than me, but he was in charge of that mobile assault platoon, and it was sort of piecemealed together. He's like, look, we got like a month and a half. Let's just skate. I want to go home to my kids, do all this other kind of stuff. And I was with him, I'm like, I want to go out here and do something. I don't want to be in a battalion aid station, but I don't really know any of these guys. Let's not do anything stupid. So yeah, like the second day, my birthday, like July 20th, it was like my second day with them. We hit an IED, and I didn't know what happened. I just thought the engine blew or something, because I had never been stuck in a Humvee, and I was getting really claustrophobic because they inserted us in the middle of the night by helicopters. So I'm used to wide open space. So I'm in this Humvee just stuck in the back, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I'm going to open the door and roll out of this thing. I can't stand it. So, this big boom, it's the middle of the day, the whole thing fills up with smoke and dust. I'm like, what happened? Did the engine blow? I like can't hear anything. I'm like, did the tire blow? And they're like, we hit an IED. And I'm like, really? That's an IED? That's no big deal. I got out, and the whole front of the Humvee was destroyed, but it was an Upper Auburn Humvee. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty good. Because the amount of damage on the front of the thing, you would have thought we'd been screwed up. We just had bad hearing for a little bit. Then a couple days later, we hit our second IED, blew the back of a newer Humvee off. I'm like, you guys, so this is going to be it? We're just going to be
for our listeners.
Yeah.
An IED.
Oh, improvised explosive device.
And these are
like a roadside bomb.
Planted
anywhere.
Yeah.
Mostly on roads where coalition forces are. They're not planting them next to your house. They want to destroy our vehicles.
Well, and the point of it being an improvised device is that it can be a bicycle, or it could be a car on the side of the road, or it could be a water bottle. I mean, right. It could be anything, or it could be a rock. It could be anything that looks anything other than a bomb.
Right.
You see a pothole, stay clear of it, because it could be in that pothole. And I still take that to this day with me. I'm very...
Yeah.
I pick up garbage. I like to recycle at home. But when I'm driving down the road, if I see a bag, I'm like, I ain't touching it. So yeah, I hit the second IED, and I'm writing home saying it's no big deal. We've hit a couple IEDs.
And did I hear Molly say this is all within a month of you having to leave? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
So with about a month left, I'm with this mobile assault platoon. So we're out for a couple days, and all of a sudden there's all this chatter on the radio in the middle of the day that they're calling the sniper teams on the radio in the middle of the day, which is weird, because we usually check in like every hour, and it's pretty quiet because we're hidden and we're all by ourselves. And I'm like, why are they calling these guys in the middle of the day? And they're like, where are you? What's your location? Prepare for extraction. And I remember the platoon sergeant, who's a cop in Mayfield Heights, and grew up here in Chagrin. He went to Chagrin, Andrew Rocco. He was like, it's broad daylight. What do you mean you're extracting us? So I didn't understand what's going along. Then this captain came up and he's like, Doc. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm just going to tell you. 6 snipers just got ambushed and killed up north of here. I'm like, what? I'm like, no way. I'm like, that's not funny. What are you talking about? He's like, it's true. They're pulling everybody out. There's somebody's got intel. Somebody knows where their hides are. So our platoon was like only 32 guys. So I'm going to know 6 people who got killed. And then one of them, he and I were initially on the same team before we went to Iraq. We trained. And when we first got to Iraq, we were on the same team. And then this one guy got injured. So we all went back to the original teams we were on. He was missing. So the whole battalion mobilized to find this one guy, Jeff Boscovich from Seven Hills. And everybody's going out, like, stop vehicles. He's in a white taxi or something like that. So we're going out stopping lines of vehicles. And this is the first time in like 6 months that I'm really pissed off. So like I said, it was great up until the last day. I mean, we did stuff. We had combat. We lost guys. Not really guys I knew. It was upsetting, but still, our platoon, your
brothers.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job.
And you said we called you Doc?
Yeah, that's what every corpsman.
Was your name?
That's what every corpsman's called.
Oh.
It's just a cop out, so they don't have to remember your name. You're just Doc.
Right.
Yeah. It's simple. So that was the first time that I thought, all right, the next person that looks at me wrong, I'm shooting them. I don't care. I'm killing whoever looks at me the wrong way. And I'm not like super religious or anything, but I'm thinking maybe I got injured. Maybe God was like, no, stop. You can't just kill people. Because I remember, we finally went out and the driver said something looks wrong with that vehicle. And this captain who was in an office all the time was like, just go, it's fine. So we went out and blocked off all this stuff. And there was a guy like off, not in the line of vehicles, kind of looking us the wrong way. And the driver's like, I'm going to go check him out. I'm thinking, I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah.
And so I went to get out of the Humvee, forgot my helmet because I was so pissed off. So I sat back down in the Humvee, and that's when they detonated, like the suicide vehicle-borne IED. So there was a guy in a big, like, white Chevy Suburban I found out after I got home, it had like 700 pounds of explosives in it. And the guy might not even know, and he probably, his family was probably threatened, like, you drive from here to there, and somebody else could have been like 10 cars behind him and detonated him when they saw him at the right spot.
Did you say you weren't wearing your helmet at the time?
Yeah.
And how far away was the
3 vehicles? So what I did was everybody opened the doors to our up armored Humvee, and the enemy's not stupid. They know the last Humvee is the important one. That's where the commander is.
That's right.
That's probably where I am, the medical guy. Well, there was another guy who sat on the passenger side in the rear seat, and that day he just decided, you know what? I'm going to go in the 7-ton in the front because there were Iraqi soldiers being trained with this mobile assault platoon. It's like, I'm going to help train them. So he wasn't there that day. So I get out. I put my foot on the ground. I grabbed my helmet and then turned a little bit, and then everything went black. So there was like no sound. It was just out. I felt dizzy, and I thought I was dreaming or something. Like literally, I thought, why am I dizzy? Why is everything dark? Did somebody just wake me up from my rack? So I've got all my stuff on, except for my helmet. But I had taken my helmet and I turned my head this way.
And you're not in the Humvee.
No, I am in the Humvee. I'm trying to get out of the Humvee. I fell out of the Humvee. So after like a second of thinking, am I waking up? Why can't I hear anything? Why am I dizzy? Why is everything black? I realized, oh no, I'm dead.
Right.
It's like something in my head was like, no,
I'm in purgatory.
Yeah, you're in between whatever and death. 'Cause you were just in a Humvee opening your doors. So as soon as I hit the ground, my eyes opened up. And I always tell people, like whoever wrote that scene in Saving Private Ryan where Tom Hanks gets in that fog where things are raining, that is exactly what happened. Oh, wow. Because my eyes opened up and I was kind of surrounded by body parts. Everything was like really focused in front of me. And my ears were ringing. Suddenly I could start to hear, and it was slowly fading back in, but I'm out of it. So I'm like trying to like, look, I can't breathe. I think the legs in front of me are mine. I'm like, and because I can't breathe, immediately I'm like, just let me bleed out, just let me pass out. I don't want to suffocate here.
Right.
So, I kind of pushed myself up a little bit, and then other Marines came running over from the other vehicles that weren't damaged. I mean, so this IED had to chew through like 3 civilian vehicles before it hit ours. So Graham...
And it still knocks you out.
Yeah.
I mean, you were behind 3 other vehicles.
Yeah, behind 3 other vehicles, and that door was closed, which is pretty much the only reason I'm here. So Sergeant Graham, who was in the front, opened his door, gone. It was probably his body parts in front of me. He was just... All that was really left was what was in his vest. As I pushed myself up and I realized, okay, I'm not really suffocating, and things were starting to... I coughed up a bunch of blood so I could breathe a little bit. I started to sort of analyze what was around me, and I heard Turner, the driver, screaming. I'm like, it's like the fire department with a baby. If we see a baby that's injured and it's not making noise, we're worried. But if it's crying, that's a good thing.
Right.
So I hear him screaming. I'm like, okay, that's good. I knew Graham was gone because I didn't hear anything from that side, and I was surrounded by things. And I heard Cordova. He's like a Mexican American, just start bitching with his Brooklyn accent. He's like, "The fuck was that? What just happened? I went up in the air. Why's my arm?" I'm like, "He's fine." Yeah. So yeah, I coughed up some blood, and the thing was on fire next to me, so my arm starts feeling like it's burning. Other than that burning sensation, though, I didn't feel any pain aside from it's really difficult for me to breathe. So then, even though I was really out of it, at that point, I'm trying to get my Beretta out. I'm like, okay, we're probably gonna get ambushed. Let me at least get my sidearm out. But I didn't even have the strength to get it out of the holster. And then this other Marine, Justin Sines, came like did some sort of baseball slide behind me, and he's like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And I said, "Call a fucking helicopter." And I had to hold my trachea because there was a hole here at this point.
Wow.
So the only way for me to speak was to cover this hole. And my voice was really weak and like raspy, but I was like, "Call a fucking helicopter." And he's like, we called one already. And he's like, "We gotta lay you down." And I was like, don't lay me down. If you lay me down, I'm gonna drown in my own blood. Because I could feel my lungs filling up with blood. A helicopter landed. Sign said, "Doc, you hear the helicopter? It's coming." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so they, sat me on a cot because I couldn't lay down, and they were carrying me to the helicopter. I'm like, "That's the wrong helicopter. It's the wrong kind of helicopter," which you probably have in your information. So it was a Marine Corps gunship, because the Army Black Hawk, and justifiably so, would not land because there were still ambushes going around, and you can't lose an entire helicopter crew just to save 1 or 2 guys, Right. And it's all numbers, and that's fine. I completely understand it. But this Marine Corps gunship flying overhead of these missions was like, "We'll go down." So they landed this CH-46, which is now my favorite helicopter. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and put me in the back, and they're like, this Marine came up and he's like, "What do you need?" Over all the rotors. And I'm like, "I need chest tubes," because I knew my lungs were filled with blood and air, and I'm like, "I got to get this out of here." And he's like, "We're just a gunship." I'm like, "Well, you better fly fast." So I was like, so they took off, and I'm just hanging. The rab stayed down, and I'm like hanging on to like one anchor point and trying to hold my neck at the same time. I'm thinking, "I'll fall out of this fucking helicopter." I kind of survived this. Now I'm going to fall out of a helicopter, because they were booking fast. And, they got us to, I think it was Al Assad Air Base. And I remember them taking our cots off, and then I was out. So I don't know if finally the adrenaline ran out, or they gave me.
You stayed alive because you stayed alive.
Yeah, I lucked out.
If you would have passed out, that one guy would have held you back or put you flat.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Right. There's a reason that you stayed alive.
Yeah, well, I
stayed awake.
I was self-diagnosing myself, and I remembered every prayer from Catholic school I ever said. So, and in my head, I was saying every Hail Mary all the way to the hospital. But it's
no atheist in a foxhole.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So I think I finally just passed out because I was like, "Oh, we're at a hospital."
Yeah.
And the rest is all like what Turner told me, because he was conscious the whole time. He said they threw my body in with the other dead bodies. They thought it was done. And then he told my mother he crawled over to me because he didn't want me to die alone. And Then he told them, this guy's still breathing. So they're like, oh, and they took me up and, did some exploratory surgery and then sent me to Balad Air Base. I have no memory of that. Well, I have a vague memory of it, but I don't know where it is, but that's where they do all the head and neck stuff. So that's where they, cleaned all this out. And, I think at Al Assad, they opened up my chest and took out what they could find.
And do you feel like you have a sense of purpose that you're here, you're still here for a reason?
Well, I joke that,
to torture your wife,
or either it's going to be a more horrible death someday. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I got to do something. No, and the whole reason I'm kind of upbeat about it, and I say this a lot, is because 6 of my brothers were killed, and they would beat the shit out of me if I whined one day about being alive. They're like, we'll trade places with you. You want to be dead?
It's really interesting that you say that. I think I've said it on this podcast before. I haven't had anything close to the trauma and the traumatic experience that you did, but I remember driving up to Baghdad and just seeing the way people lived over there. And I remember there was there was some IED attack that we were stopped behind, and somebody had gotten killed, and they were bringing that soldier's remains back, and that was the closest I'd ever been to a dead body, and that to me was so traumatizing, right? And I remember coming back from Iraq thinking, I'm never having a bad day again.
Right.
I there's no way I'm ever gonna bitch about anything. Not because of that dude and that dude's experience, and not because of the way people live over there, surrounded by death and devastation all the time. If they can live that way and that guy can die that way for his country, I'm not going to come back to America and complain once. But you know what? I do it all the time. I still, you forget that.
You need another bracelet on.
We're going to talk about
side.
bracelets in a second.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah, but, my boss reminds me of that all the time too. The couple times, I was stressed out when we were buying our house. And he's like, what do you do? You survived everything. Yeah. And then I always look back to that movie Platoon. I remember there was one guy at the end, he said, and I loved it. And I was like, this guy's right. He's like, all you got to do is make it out of here. And every day, the rest of your life is gravy. The older I get, the easier it gets.
Yeah. The easier to remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think anytime I would hear somebody complain about anything around here, I'm like, okay.
Right.
I mean, just like, people in Iraq or Afghanistan. Yeah. Every day bombs are going off. They check their kids. Are they okay? Right. And they go about their business.
Right.
I'm like, people here have no clue. Yeah. They shut the power down for everybody. Power goes out 5 minutes to your people. What's going on? Why do I pay my bill? Really? Give them a fucking second to fix it.
Right.
The roads are horrible. There's roads. Yeah, and we have water. We can drink water out of a toilet, for God's sake. They don't have water, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I'm like, it's gravy.
Yeah. On your bracelet, you've got the initials of the 6.
No.
No? Do I have that wrong?
This is my one guy. This is the guy who convinced me to stay with the platoon when I thought I wasn't hacking it, because the platoon was pretty crazy. They were, they were a little nutty, and I was the new guy, and I didn't know if I was really going to fit in. And, he helped me shoot better, qualify. So I just remember him the most out of the 6 guys.
Is he still with us?
No, he was killed that day. Oh. Yeah. He was one of the guys killed. And another guy in my platoon, because he was a tough guy, Sergeant Rock, and he was a cop down in Toronto, Ohio. And he was younger, but I mean, the way he carried himself, he was in really good shape, and you just, you wouldn't mess with that guy. But I remember one of the other guys who was fine, he was one of the guys to go out and find the bodies. One of the other guys from State Platoon said, when we took Brock's body off the truck, he just looked like a kid. It didn't look like that tough guy anymore. He just looked like a little boy, filled with holes,
Nellie said that, so Nellie's our producer, our intrepid researcher, and found a quote from you to somebody that whenever you go through the metal detectors at the airport, you say you better get the wand out because this thing's not coming off.
I don't take this thing off.
That's awesome. That's outstanding.
I got a nice little tan line there.
So before you walked in, we were talking about how having, I got this bracelet to remind me to be mindful, right? About the here and the now and all the gratitude that comes with that. But Yeah, I think you've got to have stuff like that, like to remind you to have that perspective. You know.
So were these?
Oh, you still have your dog tags?
Yeah. Well, this, like I said, I'm not super religious. I did go to a Catholic school as a kid, and my one assistant chief, Mark Vetter, and his wife, she's a captain Alita Vetter. They go to St. Martin's, and this guy, you know, I guess the priest there blesses these medals before you go over, and he gives them to any service person. So, and they do it at the church in Gates Mills because I guess they're affiliated with St. Martin's. So I wore that thing, and I'll come back and give it back to him because that's what you do. You give it back to them. They give it to another service person. And, you know, after that, I was like,
this is mine.
Plus, it's got
now.
the key to my bike lock, so I don't ever. Yeah.
Speaking of bikes,
Yes.
an avid cycler.
Yes, despite appearances.
Cyclist.
Yeah.
Cyclist.
I'm part of the Clydesdales. The
And
Falls group.
you're doing do you do the V
Velasano.
race?
Velasano?
Yeah.
This is my first year doing it, yes. Yeah.
And you're always riding when you're not working.
I ride to work and back, you know. Riding to work's a joke because I pedal twice and fly down Grove Hill. And then I take the long way home. I make like a 20-mile route home. And I ride with a group of guys here. Chris Hitchcock, you know him. He's the Geauga County Treasurer. He lives in South Russell.
Okay.
So he is our fearless leader of the Clydesdale cycling group. And it's mostly guys from around here. They're a little bit older. We only ride to eat. Wherever we ride, there must be food.
I know the group because you would end up at Burntwood all the time.
Yes.
And sit on the rock.
Right.
Or sit on the front patio.
Yeah. That is it. There's no, the first time I ever hooked up with that group, we were on the bridge and I said, "Hey, I'm Jim. You invited me." And he's like, yeah. And then some other woman came clicking up in her shoes. She goes, "Is this Cleveland Touring Club? Are you going to Hiram?" And Chris said, "Is there food there? Because if there's food there, we'll go." You know, so everything revolves around food with our group. That's why we are not skinny cyclists.
You have no kids.
No kids. We have
your
dachshunds.
Dog is your children.
Yes,
you love to cook.
Yes.
You love to have bonfires that I never get invited to.
Oh, you should come for movie night. We have outdoor movie night on the hill.
Yeah.
We just had one. Kathy and Steve came over. Kathy Hadenbach and Steve Peplin. Well, we hung out with them Friday. They took us to Hopewell benefit on Friday. Then Saturday I cooked out and we watched Best in Show outside.
He would like post these on Facebook. These, having a bonfire. I'm like, maybe
once again, this is another reason I quit Facebook because my wife says it's gauche for me to post these things.
Well, actually,
she's like, "You're sounding braggart. Stop posting. Nobody needs to know what we're doing."
Just jealous. This is jealousy.
Actually, literally, I don't know if you know this. The entire reason for you being on this podcast was so that Molly could have just made you
eventually
feel
get an
bad.
invite.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
gosh, I hope it works.
It's too hot to have a little fire.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it a bonfire. I would call it a ceremonial fire because that's legal.
Oh, yes. You
can't have a bonfire within the village limits.
That's so funny. Growing up, we would have my mom had a square pit. And we would have a bonfire all summer long, every night. But my mother always made sure there was a pack of hot dogs out there, whether we were eating or not.
Yes.
So in case anyone came, we were cooking.
I have a line I heard from Assistant Chief Vetter. He said, anytime I show up to that, he goes, you come up and you say, "Knowing full well that open burning is illegal in the state of Ohio, unless you are having a cooking fire or a ceremonial fire. Which of the two are you doing right now?" And if they ask you, repeat it, and they're like, ceremonial? I'm like, well, I don't want to infringe on your religion. Please invite your neighbors next time. I'm sure they're the ones who called.
Oh, my gosh.
Plausible deniability.
Ceremonial. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, if it's really something crazy, we got to put it out. But if you're having a little fire, nobody cares.
Jim, everybody wants to know, have you ever saved a cat out of a tree?
Have you ever seen a dead cat in a tree? They always come down.
That's the go-to.
I have to say, and this is not funny aside, you are a funny guy, but you have a huge heart. And I remember the Coble family telling me that you went back that next day and you found their pets,
found their cats,
who were deceased.
That was hard.
And you put them in a box and gave them to them.
Yeah, that made me a little weepy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's.
I know. We're usually pretty tough guys,
over and beyond.
But she was pretty upset when we wrapped them up, and I was like, "We gotta get out of here. I don't know what this salty discharge in my eyes is."
Wow.
Yeah, but that meant a lot to her. So.
Well, yeah, I couldn't imagine losing pets, I mean, bad enough to lose your home, but you're going to lose your little best friends on top of it. That's horrible.
This is rank speculation on my part, but
Yeah.
I wonder if when you have seen the number of fires, probably hundreds, thousands, that you've of just devastated property, right? Over the years, between the perspective that you get from your Iraq experience and then the perspective that you must get when you see how devastated people feel when they lose every material object that they possess, right? But survive, right? With their children intact and right? I mean, that's got to give you a lot of perspective too, right? Like when you see people bemoaning the loss of their home and all their property, but they're all alive and they're safe.
Right.
Do you, as a firefighter, come to that experience with, you guys should really
Please
be
be with
a
your
lot
family.
more
We always
grateful.
Yeah, no,
Right.
we usually tell that to the people too. I mean, and it is devastating. You've lost everything. We always say fire is the worst thief. If a thief comes into your house, he wants your jewelry, he wants your cash. Fire wants your pictures, your heirlooms. It's taking everything. But we're like, you're all alive.
Yeah.
You all made it out alive. Most of the stuff could be replaced. Yeah, you're going to lose some stuff, but you've got your life and you can keep living. That's way more important.
Well, and people get so attached to those possessions. There's this other dude who has a podcast, James Altucher. He goes through this cleanse. It's pretty extreme, but his cleanse is he gets rid of all of his stuff like once a year.
I'm going through that with my kitchen.
Are you?
I'm cleansing all the shit from my kitchen.
You accumulate all these things and you automatically get attached to them so that when you lose something or it gets damaged, you feel it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just stuff. It's just plastic and metal and electronics.
But
and
it's the memory that goes along with that stuff.
But you can keep that memory.
yes, but it's
Right.
hard.
And
to
that's,
disconnect.
I joked like all the people who, like, oh, how come you don't have more pictures of Iraq? I'm like, A, I was doing things.
Yeah.
B, cameras are heavy.
Yeah.
So, when they would put sniper teams out for 4 days, we're carrying water and food
Right.
and ammunition. We don't care about a camera. And, lastly, I prefer to just remember everything. I don't take pictures. I just remember things.
And honestly, I think the best thing that you can ever really own is a good journal and a camera, which everyone has on their phone now, right? Everything else can go, right? Because I write in my journal every day and I read stuff in there that there's no way I would have remembered if I hadn't written it down or taken a picture of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm fearful of Facebook shutting down or leaving because they basically have my entire life since 20. Because I don't take any pictures.
That's your journal.
They go right up on Facebook. Then I delete them out of my phone. I mean, I never.
I would
print
save them on
out.
my iPad. And I'll tell you, before this
I need to
Velasano
start
thing, I
downloading.
was so happy being off social media. People are like, "Oh, did you see it?" They're like, "Nope, ignorance is bliss. It's great. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me."
Someday.
Yeah.
After I download all my pictures.
Well, and there's also I'm a little jealous of you for taking time off of social media, and I think you've inspired me to do the same.
Oh, it's great.
Because there's definitely something to be said for like governing your attention, right? Even like just watching the news depresses me, so I stop watching the news sometimes.
I listen to music and cook. That is
there you go. There
that
you
is
go.
it. Everyone's
you
like, "What
need.
TV shows do you watch?" I'm like, I don't want to sound like we listen to music and I cook.
There you go.
There goes my lightning round question.
No. There's in the winter.
Okay.
I definitely watch television.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right.
Lightning round.
Ready?
Go ahead, Molly. You
Last
first.
show you binged.
Poldark.
What is it?
Dark, huh?
Poldark.
Poldark.
Poldark. Yeah, it's
Iceland? Is that what it is?
No, it's a British show. It's on PBS. It's awesome, and then season 4 just started.
I watched that one.
It's really, really good. It's a remake of a PBS series from like 1975, and my wife can't believe it because her customers, they're all female, are like, "You should see this Poldark show," and she's like, I can't believe my husband's watching this show."
Who would have known Jim was this nerdy? I had no idea, Jim. That's
PBS,
awesome.
I love
All my friends from high school who I'm still friends with, I'm the dumbest one. They're all doctors, so I grew up with nerds. My wife's convinced I was raised by them.
I've seen Poldark up there, and I was like, "There's no way this is good. There's no way, really."
Love it.
Okay, so you don't have to say who it was to, but what's the last text you sent? Get your phone out. It doesn't have to. You don't have to go into detail. We don't need to. Just the last. What did it say? I'm doing this stupid podcast for that stupid Molly Gabler girl today.
I was trying to think of a joke that went through there. The last text I sent or I received?
Well, which one's better?
Whichever's funnier.
Crap, where should we go?
Okay.
So my wife just texted me because I said Grove Hill's closed. So we're going to Sarah's. We're going to Sarah's place for dinner tonight.
Oh, okay. We're probably going to get some pizza rolls from the gas station.
Ah, nice.
Which, if you have not tried those at Bell Station, 306 in Bell, the new gas station.
No, I have not.
I am telling you guys.
No, thank you.
Shake your head all you want. Well, you don't do cheese or anything.
Just sort of training for this Velasano thing, so I'm eating really clean.
It's going to be good, clean eating for you.
Gas station food.
July 22nd.
Here's the deal, though. They don't make money on gas, so they need to do something unique and special. So it's all their homemade food, and it is unbelievable. And they're an incredible family. The incredible family owns it. Just they're good people. Check them out.
Jim, you're on a desert island.
Yeah.
For at least 3 months, but you don't know how long, could be forever. You can bring with you any single musician's entire discography. Whose discography do you bring?
Miles Davis.
Oh, that's a solid choice.
That's what Alex's dog's name is called.
Really?
Miles Davis is my dog. That would be in my top 5.
Yeah.
Good call. Same island, same shipwreck that got you to the island. 3 months minimum. You don't know how long. One author's entire library.
David Sedaris.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about, Jim.
Yeah.
I love David Sedaris. That was
I met
also...
him.
Did you really? When he was here in Cleveland?
My wife's friend books him all the time. She's like, I have to pick him up at the airport. Next time you pick him up. I'm like, okay. It was the first time I was starstruck. I came back from London and we were late to the show. And my wife's like, come here. She's like, I go to the bathroom. Of course you do, because you're like a child. I'm like, we got to get in there. So we're in there. And then she's like, come here. I'm like, no, we got to get our seats. She's like, no, come here. And then her friend Cindy Katzenmeyer, who does all the booking for Playhouse Square, she's like, well, this is David. And I'm like, hi. She's like, Jim just came back from London. He was doing a bicycle ride with Wounded Warrior Project. He's like, oh, where were you? I'm like, I don't know. I was in London,
Well, the thing of it is, if you were stuck on a desert island, that he just published his diaries, and those are like 1,000 pages. That'll keep you busy for a month.
Right. It'd keep me laughing for a month.
Oh my God, I love David Sedaris.
Yeah, he's great.
I think I think I would have very similar answers. Yeah, if I was on a desert island. Jim.
Yes.
Your final lightning round question is, what is an embarrassing thing about yourself that no one else knows?
That no one else knows?
Well, I mean, occasional wife or something is okay.
If you don't have one, which is impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Then as few people as possible now.
Or a story. I mean, it doesn't have to be about him. It could be a story that you went through that's embarrassing.
It's not my question, but that's okay.
Well, but it could be. But
it could be a story. Anything.
Something that he did
some
or went
embarrassing
through.
thing.
We don't want that he has 3 nuts. I mean, although that if he does,
and everybody knows that.
No.
This podcast just took a turn for the really
always
weird.
Molly's always taking it the wrong way.
So I was a theater major at Cleveland State, and they had a black box theater. And above the black box theater is where all the lighting is. And a black box theater is just a big cube, and you design it however you want, depending on the show. You put regular seats there, you can put seats all around, theater in the round, do whatever. So it's just a blank canvas. Well, up above it was where all the lights are, and they just called it the grid. And, it's like steel I-beams that are probably like 8-foot squares, and then across all of that stuff is like a real thin steel cable, so it's bouncy, and you walk across it. And it kind of freaks people out when they first go up there because you're like 40 feet in the air. So anyway, myself and a girl were up there.
Uh-oh.
And we locked the door, and we decided to do what college kids do. And something might have spilled on the stage.
Wow.
Wow, that is
That
amazing.
That's
that
one of the
might
best ones.
Beat Rob pooping on the stage.
How
on
funny
Broadway.
how funny
another theater.
Yeah,
My wife's gonna kill me for that too.
How funny that another stage-related
Yes.
answer is the funniest thing. That is an outstanding answer.
Yeah,
Jeff.
that was just 21. It was long ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're talking about wine, obviously.
Right. Did anyone slip and hurt themselves
I
during
don't know.
the next day's production?
What is
We
this?
put our hands over each other's mouths and then escaped. Yeah.
That's the best
Yeah, Cameron
story.
Diaz used it for her hair.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Hey, just as nothing is going to top that, actually.
No.
What a great story, Jim. Is there anything you'd like to convey out to the 10 million fans that we have out there? Is there anything you would like to say to the kids listening at home before we depart?
Yeah, you know what? It goes back to the military thing and being over there and being here. Don't complain about anything.
We've
got it so good.
People.
Enjoy your life. Be nice to each other, for God's sake.
Yes.
That's what drives me crazy. If I'm ever in a military fire uniform, everyone's so nice to me. But if I'm riding a bike, they're yelling.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
I'm the same guy. You were
Right.
just
Oh, that's
thanking me for my
funny.
service.
Speaking
Just
of
be cool
bike,
to each other.
tell us about this race that you're doing.
Belisano.
I'm not doing a race. It's a ride. It's
Right.
a tour.
Ooh, sorry.
I'm riding 100 miles for cancer research through the Cleveland Clinic.
And can they support you in some way?
Yeah. You could go to my Facebook page.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, or you could go to Belisano's page and type my name in, or type in Chagrin Falls Fire Department, and it's got our whole team. It's myself, Kelly Kimball. She's retired from the fire department. She's riding 200 miles because if you've seen her, you know she can. And myself, Captain Brian Foster, and firefighter Mike Geckley are all going to ride 100 miles each. So we are raising money, and Pepper Tree Capital here in town.
Howie Mandel.
He's awesome.
He's amazing.
He's like, come. He's like, I want to give you money. When he heard me talking about it months ago, so I wrote some stuff down. I didn't know what to do. I went to him, and he goes, well, how much do you need total? I go, for the whole team, for us, our minimum fundraising is like 5,200 something. He's like, oh, I'll just match up to 2,600. I'm like, he's like, that was easy, huh? I'm like, yeah, that was pretty easy.
Awesome.
He's a good man.
Yeah,
We should have Howie Mandel on the show.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. So I'm doing very well with fundraising, but I'm very close to being a big wheeler, which is more cash and prizes for me. So
Big
I'm only $400 away from doubling my required thing.
When is Belisano?
It is the weekend, July 20th, my birthday. July 20th, 21st, 22nd. 20th is a kickoff party downtown. 21st is when 3 of us will be riding, and Kelly's riding the 21st and the 22nd.
Molly, what are you binging on right now?
We're binging on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and the new season just came out, and Billy on the Street. And if you haven't seen Billy on the Street,
I haven't. I gotta check
it
that
is
out.
exactly because I am so politically correct. If I were to be allowed to just be who I really truly am with my potty mouth and everything, Billy on the Street is the game show that I would be hosting.
Is that what
Check it
Rob
out.
Sapp told us about?
Yeah, he's the guy. I think it was on Parks and Recs later on in the years.
Okay.
He's a comedian. He's very, very funny, but he'll just go and razz people on the street and tell them to, just fuck off, just get away. You're stupid. You don't even know the answer. Just get away from me. He's absolutely hysterical. One episode and you're hooked.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
All right, kids.
And go to a summer concert.
Go to a summer concert.
August.
Yeah. Anywho, folks, thanks for, if you've listened this far, then that's pretty amazing, because Molly is practically asleep right now.
So not true.
No, it's not.
You're lying.
No, but you could go to our Facebook page. Jim, the last thing you do before you sign off from Facebook permanently is go to our Facebook page
and
hit
like us.
And then we'll never hear from you again, because you will have signed off forever.
No, I'm sure I'm going to
Best.Podcast.Ever.
have to do Belisano again next year.
There you go.
And actually, Bob Hunt is, he wants me to organize a bike ride for his foundation.
Oh, good.
So part of me is like, I'm probably going to need social media for that.
Yes, another great
So mark your
episode.
calendars.
There you
September
go.
of 2019, there'll be a lovely bike ride out of Chagrin Falls.
What's the date?
I think September 8th of 2019. That gives me enough time to plan it.
Oh,
It's a year
yeah.
and a half
Oh
from
my
now.
gosh.
Mark your
Yeah.
calendars, folks.
I wouldn't even ride it in.
You could ride up to
after
100
that.
miles. You could ride as little as 10.
Oh, could I as little as 10. Can we get a little lower than 10?
And it's all going to start and finish at the high school, and there's going to be a big party on the football field. It's going to be great.
Oh, that'll be so much fun. Any help you need, please let me know.
I'll be calling you.
Absolutely.
And Burntwood. And I'm
Absolutely.
There you go. All right, kids. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time. Max Julian, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. Max, you spend a lot of time litigating here at the Gertzberg Law Firm. Is that true?
I sure do.
You enjoy litigation?
I sure do.
What do you like about it?
It's like a chess game.
Ooh.
You always got to think a couple moves ahead, and yeah, I enjoy it.
So, Max, today we are going to spend about 10 minutes, give or take, talking about restrictive covenants, which you are avidly litigating as we speak.
There are a couple of cases involving that, yes.
Right. What are restrictive covenants and what are the different types?
Sure. So a covenant is an obligation to continue doing something, and a restrictive covenant is an obligation to continue to refrain from doing something.
That's a good law school answer right there. I like that. Never really thought about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to think about it.
Sure.
And so in a restrictive covenant, there's an obligation to refrain from doing something, and most typically that involves not interfering with existing contractual relationships or not poaching clients or customers, not poaching employees. And they typically last for a period of time, and they come into effect when an employee leaves the employment of an employer.
To be clear, it's not just with employees. You can have restrictive covenants with shareholders or with customers or really anybody, right?
Vendors, anybody.
Yeah. So at its most basic level, you've got a confidentiality agreement where someone is prevented from disclosing or using confidential information.
Yes.
Right?
Or information that they should know that the employer, for example, believes is confidential and proprietary.
Right. The next one above that would be, at least in my mind, an employee poaching agreement where an employee who wants to leave the company is prevented from poaching employees, is prevented from taking employees with them.
Yes, because the employer has expended resources to train and retain and find those employees, and it would be a loss to lose them and have to retrain new employees.
Right. A third one would be a non-solicitation agreement where an employee, and again, it could be a customer, but we'll use it in the employment context here today, agrees that they will not contact or solicit or induce a customer or a vendor to terminate their relationship with the employer.
Yes.
Right. And then the last one is the non-compete, where the employee is prevented from actually running a competing business or working in a competing business. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I usually tell clients that courts don't like restrictive covenants in general. They want people to be able to work wherever they want, pay taxes, put food on the table, put their kids to college. Mm-hmm. So the less burden a court places on someone's ability to get a job, the better.
Right. It has to be reasonable in terms of where the restrictive covenant is effective and and how long it lasts.
Right. Well, so let's talk about that some more, right? So the case law in Ohio says that it has to be narrowly tailored to protect a business's legitimate competitive interests or something like that, right? So a court looks at what factors to determine whether it is properly narrowly tailored.
Sure. So courts would look at whether or not that person is unduly restricted from engaging in their trade or business or profession. Like, you can't interfere with someone's right to work and provide food for their families. But again, it will be commensurate with that employee's role and the significance of that employee's role at the former employer.
And you mentioned time.
Yeah.
So that's duration of the restriction, right?
Yeah.
What, in your experience, is often considered reasonable, and what is often considered unreasonable?
Probably a period of years would be the longer it is, the less reasonable it is.
Yeah.
I've seen non-competes that are enforceable for 6 weeks, and again, if it's for like a senior level officer, it may be enforceable for 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, but like a 5-year non-compete is likely to get struck down in a lot of cases.
Never say never, but I've never heard of it.
Yeah, right. So, so we talked about the nature of the person's role with the company. We talked about time. What about geography?
So geography, typically a restriction of like 25 miles, 25 miles or 50 miles surrounding our offices, or whatever the company defines as its competitive region, where most of its customers located.
Right. And I know the difficulty these days is with online businesses that have customers all over the country.
Right. Where are they truly located?
Right. The courts ask the question, where are you really operating, and where are you really directing your marketing efforts, and where do you have employees? Where are your customers actually?
Right. Where do your decision makers reside?
Right. So very fact-specific inquiry. And the burden is on the employer to demonstrate that there is this legitimate business interest in this geography and in this time period and in this role.
Yes.
And we're talking there about non-competes, but I think that concept of legitimate business interests permeates through all 4 types of restrictive covenants. So there is a doctrine that you are knee deep in, Max, in some of your cases, the faithless servant doctrine. What is that?
So the faithless servant doctrine, I guess, stems from the expectation that most employers, all employers, probably have that their employees are engaged in activities that benefit the employer, I guess, during the workday. And so when an employer discovers that an employee is taking actions that don't benefit or that harm the employer during the time when the employee is expected to be working, doing things that benefit the employer, then that employee is said to have violated the duty that they owed to their employer to do things in the employer's interest. And in that circumstance,
what's an example?
So if you are working for a business and the expectation is that you are supposed to be writing software code to benefit that business's endeavors, but really you're writing some other kind of code to benefit your own business, and maybe that business is a competitor, you will have violated the faithless servant doctrine.
And what measures or what remedies does the employer have?
The employer can seek to recover the salaries and bonuses and compensation paid to the employee during the time period as far back as it goes, as the employer can show that the employee was faithless.
Right. And presumably, and that's true regardless of whether there's a non-compete. Effectively, it's a common law restrictive covenant.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't need a document. It is just an expectation.
Yep.
I think that I've heard it referred to as the duty of loyalty.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Employees generally have a duty of loyalty to the employer and a duty to act in the employer's best interests.
Got it. All right, Max. This was helpful. Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn?
Just remember to dispense justice as is required.
As is reasonable.
Yeah.
I will say this. The preparation of any of those documents really is something that folks ought to consult with a lawyer about. And I'm not suggesting that you consult with us lawyers, although we do these things all day long, getting it wrong has consequences.
Very costly.
Yeah. And so talk to a lawyer. Don't just pull something off the internet. And you definitely need to customize these so that they're narrowly tailored to your business and to the relationships that you're trying to address. If you go to Max Julian's page at the Gertzberg Law Firm website, you will find this podcast there, and you will also find his prior one from a little bit ago on contract provisions, and you'll see all kinds of other neat things that Max has written. While you're there, check out Cover My Six and all the other things that the firm does. Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Alex. Bye-bye.